Khamzat Chimaev has officially arrived at the very top of the welterweight division. In front of him are two potential fights that could well change the course of the fight game as we know it. Before Khamzat can call himself king, he must first overcome two of the UFC's pound-for-pound greats, the top contender, Colby Covington, and the welterweight champ, Kamaru Usman. So how does he do against both? Well, let's dive into it. After his instant classic battle with Gilbert Burns, a lot of people came away with a very different impression of Khamzat. Not a bad impression, but a more realistic take on his abilities within the welterweight top 5. Before the Burns fight, fans seemed convinced that Chimaev would be able to capture Kamaru Usman's title before then moving up in weight and repeating the feat at middleweight. But now, after seeing more of him in action, most would agree that he should take another contender fight before fighting for UFC gold. Because if one thing is clear about Khamzat Chimaev, it's that time is on his side, and he's still improving.
Khamzat Chimaev, your teammate and your friend, ESPN has voted him as a guy to watch in 2022, and I don't think we're the only ones. I think a lot of people obviously have Khamzat circled as somebody to watch over the next 12 months. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about him and talk to you about the year that's coming up for him, and even just kind of back at the beginning. So you guys met in 2017 is when he came into the gym in Stockholm, right?
Yeah, it could be around then. He came in and it was just he was a good wrestler. He was a guy that just, he did all the sessions he could. Like, he didn't miss a session, and you could just see in the early days that he really wanted this, and he's just been living at the gym since then. He's just been a train in the gym since then. He's just been going 100% every day, every session, and he's just started. So that's the scariest thing with this guy. He's just started his career, and he got that hype around him, and he's just he's just a force coming in. It's nobody that trains like him. Nobody. I haven't seen it. I've been around the world seeing fighters train and having their camps and then training for a fight. This guy doesn't get tired. He doesn't feel any pain. He just go through it.
And after watching Khamzat go to war with Gilbert Burns over 3 rounds, we definitely got to see more of what makes him special. Not only did he display strong cardio in a fast-paced matchup, but he did it against a heavy-handed, dangerous finisher who really had him in trouble at several points in the fight. Gilbert Burns is no pushover, and Khamzat was able to narrowly defeat him in a battle of wills. As soon as this fight was over, all of a sudden the idea of Khamzat taking on Colby Covington began to rise, and if you ask us, that would be a truly incredible fight. Two huge stars who both have some real character on the mic, with a championship matchup against Kamaru Usman up for grabs. And when you actually think about the fight and how it may play out, there are some very interesting paths to victory for Chimaev. Sure, Colby has the edge on experience, on cardio, and will probably pose some problems with his takedown defense, but let's not forget just how resilient Khamzat is in there. Not only does he have an iron chin, his takedown defense is truly stunning, and if both men are unable to get the other to the mat, it's very, very likely that we would see a striking matchup between them. And that's where things would be very, very interesting. Both men can certainly handle themselves in a war, with Khamzat's durability and ferocity being real strengths of his. Colby, on the other hand, can really work in some excellent combinations, putting levels of volume on his opponent that would be unlike anything Khamzat has ever seen. But the real difference between these two could well come down to punching power. And when the takedowns aren't working and the striking exchanges are pretty even, sometimes it can be the harder hitter who rises to the top. And even though Colby will be much better at sustaining a pace, if Khamzat lands cleanly, Covington could be dropping and hurting Colby in the very recent past. If Khamzat lands, Colby might not be so fortunate. It's important to remember that Khamzat has fought and scored knockouts at 185 pounds, and if he catches Colby, particularly with one of those beautiful uppercuts he throws, it could spell danger. But here's an interesting point that not many people are bringing up. Khamzat really did manage to live up to the hype in many ways after taking a huge step up in competition in the form of Gilbert Burns. Sure, he didn't get the finish, but when you factor in just how crazy a year it has been for Boers, it really does put his achievement into perspective. Not only did Chimaev have to battle through a bout of COVID-19 that briefly threatened to derail his career, but he also had to adjust to life as a major star, as his stock continued to go higher and higher with each passing month. On top of all of that, he also had to deal with a truly massive step up in competition, with his first top 10 opponent coming in the form of the number 2 ranked Burns. And if there's one thing that makes his next fight so interesting, it's that he will probably come in a lot more comfortable, more suited to the bright lights and high-level competition. Who knows just how good a version of Khamzat Chimaev we got in the Gilbert Burns fight? Maybe it was 70%, maybe 80%, it can be hard to tell. But sometimes you have to get a tough night out of the way before really stepping it up. Look at McGregor's fight with Mendes before he destroyed Jose Aldo, or Adesanya's 5-round war with Kelvin Gastelum before he made quick work of Robert Whittaker. Now a fight with Kamaru Usman, that may be a very different proposition for Chimaev. Not only is the pound-for-pound number 1 an incredible talent, but he's also a very difficult stylistic matchup for Chimaev. Like Colby, the takedown defense and overall wrestling game will make him very difficult to ground, and though Khamzat is known for his ridiculous strength, Usman could well be able to match him in that department. And where Covington falls short in terms of raw punching power, the Nigerian Nightmare has shown himself to have some really terrifying knockout ability, just as Jorge Masvidal found out, and even Gilbert Burns. It might be fair to say that the power advantage would edge towards the champion if we look at Burns as their common opponent, but before we get too carried away with praising Kamaru, let's not forget just how special a fighter Khamzat is. At 27, he has all the time in the world to improve and round out his game, and though Usman is certainly in his prime, Chimaev should be expected to make some real leaps in his progress between now and his 30th birthday. It's just interesting to think about how that fight would play out. Would either man shoot for the takedown early, or would they decide to simply slug it out on the feet? And if Khamzat was able to do the unthinkable and control Usman from top position, would his range of submissions and his ferocious ground and pound be as devastating as he thinks? Or would Kamaru be able to power his way out of these bad positions? I think it's easier to see a path to victory for Chimaev against Colby, but looking at the fight with Usman, it's pretty hard to see it as anything more than a 50-50, and that's if you're being very generous. Hopefully, we won't have to wait long to find out.